Hello everyone. In this module, we'll be studying about dynamics of environmental pollution due to pesticides. I am Dr. Girima Nagda, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology, Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur. The learning outcomes of this module will be to know about environmental pollution, to know about pesticides, how pesticides are playing a crucial role in causing environmental pollution, what factors are responsible for pesticide pollution, dynamics of pesticides in different compartments of environment, and effective management strategies of pesticide pollution. The contents include environmental pollution, pesticides the necessarily evil, including the pesticide classification, pesticides, how they are causing and why they are causing pollution, how pesticides cause pollution and properties which make them cause pollution, dynamics of pesticides in different compartments of environment, distribution and fate of pesticides in the environment, which includes the dissipation of pesticides, soil pollution, water pollution, and air pollution due to pesticides, the transfer and bioaccumulation of pesticides in the food chain and its effect on the biota, and the management strategies to control pesticide pollution. What is environmental pollution? A very simple thing, and it is defined as any undesirable or unwanted change in the environment which affects the physical, chemical, and biological composition of the natural environment and all of its important spheres, that is, air, water, and soil. It also affects the living organisms, including humans, plants, animals, and other organisms, and the sustaining and carrying capacity of the natural environment is also disturbed. Types of environmental pollution. The three major types of environmental pollution are any undesirable change in the air causing air pollution, any undesirable change in soil, soil pollution, and water pollution. All these three types of pollutions are definitely being caused by the pesticides. Now we'll be discussing what are pesticides. Generally, pesticides are defined as toxic, poisonous chemicals which are used either to kill, to deter, or to control pests. Pests are those undesirable insects which infest our crops, stored grains, etc. These can be insects, weeds, rodents, fungi. Other pests include mites, eggs and larvae of insects, mollusks, etc. All are included in the group pests. Now, types of pesticide. Pesticides are classified differently. They can be classified on the basis of their chemical structure, on the basis of the target group of pests they attack, on the basis of mode of their formulation, and on the basis of mode of entry into the target pests. On the basis of the chemical structure, pesticides can be organochlorines, DDT, BHC, chlordane, toxaphene, etc. Organophosphates like malathion, fenthion, etc. Carbamates like bendiocarb, carbyle, etc. And pyrethroids like deltamethrin, permethrin, etc. On the basis of the target group of pests which they attack, the pesticides can be insecticides, in which case the insects are the target groups, which includes DDT, malathion. Fungicides, which includes pentachlorophenol, folpet, captan, they attack the fungi. Rodenticides, rosol, fluoroacetates, which attack the rodents. Weedicides, which attack the unwanted plants and weeds, 2,4-D, paraquat, triazine. Larvicides, they attack the larvae of different insects like temiphos. Algicides, which attack the algae which are acting as pests like isoproteron, oxyfluorophene. Miticides, they attack the mites, azobenzene, etc. Nematicides like carbofuron. Ovicides, they attack the eggs of insects and mites like benzoxine. Molluscicides, which attack the slugs and snails like metaldehyde, thiacloprid, thiode-carb, etc. On the basis of the mode of entry into the Target organism. Pesticides can be systemic pesticides which are absorbed by the target organisms. These include 2,4-D and glyphosate. Contact pesticides which act on target pests when they come in contact with the uh, pest, that is the pest and the pesticides come in contact. Example, paraquat, diquat, etc. Stomach poisons which enter the pest's body through the alimentary canal like malathion, and fumigants which kill the target pest by producing vapor and enter the pest's body. On the basis of the formulation, the pesticides are found to occur in the form of dusts, granules, wettable powders, dry baits, aerosols, and many other formulations are available. Now, why are these pesticides called as necessary evil? First and foremost, these pesticides are definitely toxic and poisonous in nature. They are hazardous. They pose a risk to the environment. And it is believed that 85 to 95% of the pesticides never reach their target organism and accumulate in the nature. Though they are toxic, poisonous, hazardous, and posing a risk to the environment, these xenobiotics have gained immense importance due to their unquestionable ability to control weeds, insects, and other pests. Though they are hazardous to animal and human health, they also pose a danger to the environment. They are still being used because they are a major savior of mankind, and they have resulted in a boom in the agriculture. Therefore, they are treated as necessary evils. They are necessary to control the pests, but at the same time, they are obnoxious, toxic, hazardous, and pose a danger to the environment. Rachel Carson was the first scientist, a lady scientist, who first gave the warning signals about the danger caused by pesticides in her book Silent Spring in 1972, where she described that the indiscriminate spraying of DDT in USA has resulted in the death of many birds. As a result of her warning signal, the US government banned DDT in 1972 in USA. This was for the first time where the obnoxious nature, the danger of the pesticide was revealed. Pesticides in the environment. Pesticides are detected in almost all spheres of the environment because they are very persistent, they are low biodegradable, they do not degrade easily, and therefore they are found in air, surface water, groundwater, sediments and soils, ice, snowpacks, wildlife, and even in human beings. They also biomagnify, bioconcentrate, and bioaccumulate in the various compartments of the environment. Not only the presence or the amount used, they can amplify themselves. They can undergo biomagnification, bioconcentration, and bioaccumulation, about which you must have read in your previous modules. What makes these pesticides cause pollution? One of the most important reason for this is the extensive usage. As I already pointed out, that the immense ability of these pesticides to control the pests and to increase the production, the agriculture production of the crops, vegetables, etc., they have been extensively used over the years. Second important point is their non-judicious and indiscriminate use. They are not used as per the recommended dose, they are not used judicially, and the farmers use them as per their will just to increase their production. Lack of knowledge of the farmer about when and how to apply these pesticides has also resulted in pesticide pollution. Use of illegal practice in their usage. Another important point is The insufficient time between the pesticide application and harvest. Sometimes the pesticides are applied very near to the harvest time, and the time difference between the harvest and pesticide application is very less, which results in accumulation of the pesticides in the crop products, and ultimately we find what is known as pesticide residue. Frequent application. In order to get more and more production, they are frequently applied to the fields. Use of non-recommended and spurious pesticides. Some of the pesticides have been banned from the different countries because of their dangerous and hazardous effects, but then too they are being used by the farmers. How pesticides cause pollution, and what are the properties of these pesticides which make them cause pollution? The most important property is the persistent and the recalcitrant nature of these pesticides. These pesticides are found to have a very longer half-life in different compartments of environment like the air, water and soil. They do not degrade very easily, and thus they are persistent. They are existing in the environment for a longer time, and they are quite resistant to degradation. The second point is what it says, their non-degradability, which makes them exist in the environment for a longer period of time and thus causing hazardous effects. Longer half-life, as sometimes even if though they degrade, they have a very longer half-life, thus existing in the different spheres of environment for many years. They are transported to long distances by natural processes like global distillation. They bioaccumulate in the food chain. We'll be looking at this process, that as the concentration of the pesticides in the various trophic level increases, thus resulting in the bioaccumulation of these pesticides in the food chains. The biomagnification also, their long-range transboundary atmospheric transport, in which they are transported into the air, water and soil sediments. Another important point which makes them cause pollution is the low water solubility, as they are not soluble in water properly, or they have a very low solubility. They are always present in the environment. And the use of obsolete and banned products, which have been banned due to certain reasons, but still they are used by the farmers either due to their ignorance, or the government is not taking proper actions so that such banned products cannot be used in the different countries. Dynamics of pesticide pollution. There is a term called as chemodynamics, made up of two words, chemo and dynamics. Chemo means chemicals and dynamic means the movement of those chemicals. This chemodynamics is defined as the movement, transformation and fate of pesticide in different environmental compartments. There are three major entry routes of the pesticides into the environment. These routes include the production, the usage and the disposal of the pesticides. This figure shows the different ways by which the pesticides are distributed and their fate in the environment. After the application of the pesticides, they can deposit through spray drift, runoff, seepage, leaching. They can reach the different compartments of the environment, that is the air, water and soil. The loss, movement and transfer of pesticides or pesticide residue from one environmental compartment to another is called as dissipation of pesticides, and it includes adsorption, volatilization, spray drift, runoff, leaching, absorption and degradation. Adsorption is the binding of the pesticide to the soil particles, and it depends upon the type of the pesticide as well as the soil characteristics. It has been found that pesticides are strongly adsorbed to soils which are rich in clay or organic matter, and they are loosely adsorbed to soils which are composed of more of sand, that is sandy soils have less adsorption of the pesticides. Volatilization. The conversion of any liquid or solid into gas by which it can drift away from its original or initial site of application is known as volatilization, and this movement is known as vapor drift. Pesticides volatilize more easily from sandy and wet soils. Thus, here also the soil characters and environmental conditions such as temperature, humidity affect the volatility. Sandy and wet soils, in case of sandy and wet soils, pesticides volatilize more readily as the adsorption is also poor. Hot, dry, windy weather and small spray drops lead to the transfer of pesticides into the air more easily, thus increasing volatilization. Spray drift. The airborne movement of spray droplets away from the treatment site during application is known as spray drift. It is affected by the size of the spray droplet. Smaller are the droplets, more easily is the drift. Second point is the wind speed. Stronger is the wind, it will lead to faster drifting of the pesticide, and the distance between the nozzle and the target plant or the ground. Greater is the distance, the more the wind can affect the spray. Drift leads to contamination of nearby ponds, streams, ditches and harm the aquatic flora and fauna. Runoff and leaching. The movement of pesticides in water over a sloping surface is called as runoff. The pesticides are either mixed with water or bound to the eroding soil. Runoff also occurs when water is added to the field faster than it can be adsorbed. The amount of pesticide runoff depends upon the type of pesticide, the slope of the land, soil properties and rainfall. Runoff also pollutes the nearby streams, ponds, lakes, etc. Leaching. The movement of pesticide into water through the soil is called as leaching. It can be downward, upwards or sideways, whereas in case of runoff, it is always down the slope. Leaching is also affected by the characteristics of the soil and its interaction with characteristics of soil and pesticide, their interaction with the water from irrigation or from the precipitation. It is found that leaching is more in case of water-soluble pesticides, sandy soils, and when rainfall occurs shortly after spraying. In such cases, leaching occurs more. Absorption and degradation. The uptake of pesticides and other chemicals into plants, animals or microorganisms is called as absorption. Most pesticides break down once they are absorbed. Degradation is the breakdown process which can occur either chemically, microbially, or it can occur through light, that is photodegradation. And degradation of the pesticide also determines the behavior and the fate of the pesticide in the environment. Pesticide with low biodegradation or low degradation rate are persistent and they remain in the environment for longer time, causing its harmful effects over a longer period of time. Organic pesticides which are persistent and they do not degrade easily are called as POPs, P-O-Ps. They are persistent organic pollutants. They are non-biodegradable or slow degraders, having longer half-life and existing in the environment for a longer period of time, maybe several days to several years. Soil pollution due to pesticides. The entry routes include direct application of pesticides into soil, spray drift during foliage treatment, wash off from treated foliage, leaching, surface runoff, and release from granulates or from treated seeds in the soil. Some of the important factors which include the transport, persistence or degradation of pesticides in the soil, they depend upon the physical and chemical as well as the biological properties of the soil and the chemical properties of the pesticides. All these factors affect the sorption, desorption, volatilization, degradation, uptake by the plants, runoff and the leaching of pesticides. Pesticides bound to soil organic matter or clay have less mobility, less bioavailability, or less accessibility to microbial degradation, and thus they are more persistent. It has been demonstrated that amount and composition of organic matter has large impact on the pesticide sorption. Moreover, soil permeability affects the water movement, and highly permeable soil allows water to percolate more easily. Thus, leaching and runoff also occurs. Water pollution due to pesticides. The major entry routes for water pollution include runoff from treated areas, leaching through the soil, drift during spraying, the direct drift during spraying, airborne drift applied directly onto the water surface. Some pesticides like to control the mosquitoes are applied directly, which cause water pollution, and the intentional dumping and improper mixing of the pesticides near water causes water pollution. Water contamination depends upon the nature of the pesticides, that is the water solubility or the hydrophobicity of the pesticides, the soil properties, weather condition, landscape, and also on the distance from the application site to the site of water source. Water solubility is a key characteristics, and other parameters like pH, salinity, turbidity, temperature, they also affect solubility, volatility, and chemical activity of pesticides, thus accounting for the bioaccumulation and toxicity. Thus, mechanism of pesticide toxicity is complicated by environmental factors such as elevated temperature, low dissolved oxygen level, or by bacterial infections and parasite invasions. Air pollution due to pesticides. Air is the most prone component of environment where pesticides readily exist. The entry routes are spraying of the pesticides. It includes the direct spraying, open disposal. The pesticides are sometimes disposed of directly, thus they are released into the air and from the manufacturing units, whereby there is a direct release of the pesticides and different residues into the environment. If air is polluted, it has adverse effects on the health of humans and animals, the most common being respiratory diseases, asthma, nausea, allergy, etc. The important factors affecting dispersion of pesticides, as already studied, are the wind speed, turbulence, temperature, pressure, moisture content, and precipitation. All these factors affect and are involved in the movement or dissipation of pesticides, distribution of pesticides in one compartment as well as from one compartment to the other compartment. The transfer and bioaccumulation of the pesticides in the food chain and its effect on the biota. This figure shows the process of biomagnification, whereby the concentration of the pesticide increases with the increase in the trophic level. As you can see here that the individuals are represented by the circles, they have lesser concentration of pesticide, but as we travel upwards to the trophic level, the pesticide concentration increases, which is known as biomagnification, which is also revealed from this diagram, whereby the pesticide is biomagnified along the food chain. Its concentration will be highest in the fish as compared to the insects shown below. Several organisms are affected by the pesticides, where we can see ranging from microorganisms, mycorrhizal fungi, nematodes, springtails, etc., earthworms, honeybees and butterflies, etc. are affected by the pesticides. This have a harmful effect on some beneficial insects also. Fishes, amphibians, birds, mammals, including man, all have been affected by the pesticides. Thus, the adverse effects of pesticides are a great threat to our biodiversity. Now, we'll be talking about few management strategies to control the pesticide pollution. These management strategies include use of biopesticides, which are least harmful and they are equivalent to the chemically available pesticides in their effectivity. Integrated pest management can also prove to be an important strategy to control the pests, along with integrated crop management and sustainable agriculture, where we talk about saving the resources for the present as well as for the future generation. Water treatment to eliminate pollutants is also very important, and contaminated water is usually treated using microbial biofilms. This is a recent technology. Biofilms are dynamic and they help in removal of the pollutants from the water. These tool represents only the solution to humans to decrease the usage of pesticides to minimum limits, which may guarantee a clean environment. Ultimately, we have to restrict ourselves to the use of pesticide to maintain a clean and better environment, as these persistent, low degradable chemicals, though beneficial for us, but their harmful effects are long lasting. Thank you.